Okay, so here I've got a scrap piece of particle board that's the exact same stuff I used for my frames. And I've been practicing nailing and stapling things to it to see what combination works best. So I have your standard uh, Arrow T50 hand stapler. And I've been trying to do like I've seen in the books and stuff and staple it on, but even doing my best to get it centered. Alright, well that's going to make a liar out of me. It didn't split it, but on a lot of these that I've been trying it on, it split it. Especially if I get a little too close to the cove part, it shatters that weak little part of the cove, and it's really hard to get it lined up on there. I know to keep it from sinking too deep, you're supposed to put tape across here, but I was having such inconsistent results with this that I decided to try some other stuff. So I also tried my upholstery stapler, and it shoots really fine staples, which are pretty nice, but it doesn't shoot them long enough. So it only shoots up to 5/8, and when these are crossing the frames, they're actually crossing at a bit of an angle. So there's a bit more gap that has to be able to be spanned by the nail or staple when it goes through. So I didn't think that would work either, even though that looked promising. If they were a little longer, this would have worked. So then I thought I'd give my brad nailer a try. But a brad nailer will obviously shoot it in there to the point where you can't get it back out, and then my boat would just be nailed to the frames. So I thought, okay, well, what if I try putting the plank on there and then putting 2 pieces of cardboard over it to stop it from going as far, and then I can just rip the cardboard loose. I don't know if you can see that, but it leaves a good bit of nail sticking up, but it's also quite pinned in there. So I can take the end cutters here and I can pry it out pretty easily. And obviously when I'm doing this on the boat, I'll put something behind it to keep it from prying loose, but it comes out of the particle board really easily. So I think this is going to work. This is how I'm going to try it. I'm going to shoot brad nails in with 2 sheets of cardboard to stop it from going too deep. So hopefully that works. Also, I've got the pressure on my nail gun dialed all the way back to 65, which is pretty borderline to even, that's the lowest I could get it to shoot consistently with. In this clip, I'm nailing on the shear plank, and I would say you have to be extra careful on the shear plank to get it just right, because all the planks will follow it, but honestly I was pretty careful with all the planks, so you don't want any of them to get kinked or follow a strange line, so you gotta be pretty careful with all of them. So the stem needs to be shaped to a point so that the planks land on it nicely, and you need to stay a few planks ahead of where you're working with the current plank. Otherwise it gets pretty difficult to get close enough without damaging the plank. So what you see me doing here is the tedious process of slowly grinding away material. So there's a sanding phase and then a checking phase, and then more sanding and more checking. What you're trying to get is the planks to bend nicely around the frames and then land with as much contact as possible on the stem. And the stem's a very complex shape, and it kind of tapers and rolls over as you get toward the bottom of the boat. And so it's definitely a fiddly process to get it right. Okay, so you saw me shaping with the sander, and that little Makita sander is a great tool for boat building. I love it. Definitely recommend. The trick with that you probably couldn't see from the camera angle is that you have to you're aiming the platen of the sander toward this frame here. So I'd be looking at the line, the 1/8 inch wide line, pencil line on here, and then shooting the platen of the sander toward that first frame, and then tilting it as I come along. It's tricky to do, definitely gives you a cramp in your shoulder, but it works pretty well for rolling this. And you can see where I had to sand back the plywood stem frame as well, because I made it too thick. I probably should have used 1/2 inch plywood, thickness plywood for that. So then the next thing I have to do before I close this up and can't get to them is remove some of these braces. So those braces were good for holding the frames when there was nothing supporting them, but now that there's a ton of planking on there, they need to come out before they get trapped because they're screwed in from this direction. So once the boat is covered over, I would have no way of getting them out. So it occurred to me that I've been planking, and I haven't shown the process of putting a plank on here yet, I don't think. So I'm going to take a video of doing that today. But you can see I think I have 22 planks on here now. So it's starting to look like a boat. But I don't see any reason to show too much planking because it's pretty tedious. And if you've seen one plank, you've seen them all. Maybe that's not entirely true. The planks, I've noticed, are getting a lot harder to twist up here. So this might actually be a little more interesting. This is the stern of the boat right here. And as you get to this area up here, the planks really have to twist to lay on here. So from this point on, I'm basically going to have to shape above each individual plank. So I already took some time and shaped for this one. And once I glue this next plank on that you're going to see, I'll have to wait till it's cured, and then I'll shape above it just individually, because I'm within 3 or 4 planks of covering this over, and this is a fairly tortured area for the wood to try to follow this in 3/4 inch steps. It's pretty tough. So you can see down this side of the boat, the levels in the middle, I wanted to check my center line down on the stems. You can see how I'm putting these planks on. I put them on with little nails. It's working okay. This process is not very quick though. I imagined when I started doing this that nailing them on would allow me to do it faster, but it's still taking me about approximately 1 hour per plank. So each plank I do, since the boat is 18.5 feet long and I don't have any wood that long, it has to have a seam in it. And so you can see some seams here. So between selecting the strips I want to use, cutting the ends, fitting them and cutting the ends square, then gluing them down, nailing them down, and then cleaning up the glue, each plank has taken me about an hour. So I'm up to about in the neighborhood of 40 hours of planking so far. So it's a fairly tedious process. So I'll show you a plank here, and then you'll get an idea of how I'm doing it. I don't say I would recommend this. My wife is doing a wee lassie over here, and she can slap on a couple of planks pretty quickly, and she's using a bungee cord method. So I'm a little envious sometimes, but she can pick out full length planks, double them up, and do 2 planks at a time. You can see these overlaps here of 2 planks. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if that would work on mine or not, but it's too late. I'm committed to this method now, so you can choose which way you want to do it. I've also noticed that using the nails is producing quite a bit of blowout on the back side. You probably can't see it here, but where the nail pierces through, it's taken some wood with it, and I suspect that would be the same with using staples, which is I think the recommended method if you're using fasteners. I'm not sure how most people deal with that. I don't really care because I'm lining the inside of the boat with carbon fiber, so you won't see any of it. The entire inside of the boat is going to be just black. So I don't care if there's blowout because I'm going to ferry the inside, sand it, and then put a carbon fiber on it. But if you wanted to keep the inside bright, it would look pretty bad on this boat, I suspect. So that's a tough thing to deal with. Another thing I've noticed, I've sanded some of it out here, but you can see I've been using spring clamps to hold these once when they're curing on the stem, and you can see where it bruises the wood. I've been able to sand out most of it, but it does bruise the cedar. The cedar's really soft. You can probably leave a mark in it with your thumbnail. Yeah, you can I can't get it to focus, but it's pretty soft. Again, it doesn't matter to me because I'm going to wrap the bow of the boat with Kevlar tape. So the leading edge and the trailing edge of the boat are going to have Kevlar tape on them. But these are just things I'm noticing. If you were trying to do this for a showpiece, this is going to be a racing boat, and I know it's going to get dinged up, so certain things I don't care about that much. But if you want it to look really, really good, that'd be a tricky thing. So, okay. Okay, I'm trying to choose a piece of cedar from my cedar rack here, and it's not been that easy because I made a mistake during the milling process. I set the cutter too deep and ended up with a lot of pieces blowing out, which made the edges all chipped up, which is a pretty big disappointment. So I have to look each piece over and see if it's any good. So this is part of why my process is taking longer. So this bundle that I just opened up seems to be pretty decent. And some of them, it'll be chipped on one side but not on the other. So just have to watch out for it. These pieces look pretty good though. Should be able to use them. And then turning anything around in this basement is super hard. So you're going to see why this is taking me an hour per plank. 2 hours per row. So my last joint is down there, so I started from the front last time, so now I'm going to start from the stern. When I was an apprentice in a cabinet shop in the late 90s, the experienced guys there always told me I put too much glue, and I have never learned. You're going to see me make a lot of mistakes in this process and in these videos, but I've got some advice you can take to the bank if you're a new woodworker Every minute you spend cleaning off wet glue saves you so much more time than if you were to put it off till it dries. So clean that wet glue as best you possibly can, even if it's annoying. It's going to be 100 times worse if you let it dry. Okay, that's one row. About an hour, maybe. Felt like an hour. They're getting harder to do as the thing gets twistier toward the bottom of the boat here. You can see the planks are going from almost horizontal to almost vertical, so twisting them into that shape is a little challenging. But that's the one plank I'll show. They're all pretty much the same. It takes a long time. No point in filming all of them. I'll take you on a little tour to see what I just did. Okay. It's right here at the bow. I try to avoid nailing into the stem when I can, but I'm starting to think I'm going to have to from here on out. So that one's clamped. You can see each one's nailed. The little piece of cardboard I was using was to make the nail stick out so I can grip it with the nail pullers. This little piece of wood here is to keep the seam aligned, and springing it up like this gives it a little downward pressure. So you can follow it down. On this end I couldn't get the clamp on it anymore, so I did shoot a nail into a dummy piece here. You can see where the clamp took a little chunk out of it. I wasn't too happy about that, but that'll be under the water line anyway. It looks like that piece of wood is holding it reasonably tight, so I'm satisfied with that. Yeah, so that's one strip down, many more to go.